This episode of The Voice Party has been brought to you by All Roads Overhead Garage Door. Upgrade your garage door and upgrade your life today. Voice Party listeners get a special discount. What's the number, Jadles?
510-375-8756.
Call that number, mention The Voice Party, and upgrade your life today with All Roads Overhead Garage Doors. Welcome to The Voice Party.
Oh, it's a new day. Phil is
It's
actually...
a new day. Yes, it is.
Phil's talking.
I know. I've never heard him say "Welcome to the Voice Party." Why? Once.
Well, I mean, you know, it goes around.
It goes around.
Yeah.
It goes around. Welcome to the show, man. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Boris Edwards. I am the author of Blood and Black Water, Dissension, Book 1 in the series.
Book 1.
So there's more books
there's
then.
more books
Oh, yeah,
coming.
there's definitely more. I already have the second book written, and the third one is written all up in my head.
It's a big book, man. Is it a novel?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, no pictures in that bad boy.
No, man. This is.
It leaves all to the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So this is our copy. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You're more than happy. You're more than welcome to.
Pictures are all in your head.
Yep.
That is how
What?
it goes.
So how? I mean, you know Phil, right? Like, you guys.
Oh, yeah. I know Phil.
Okay. And is this your first book ever?
Yes, this is actually my first book officially finished from beginning to end. I had other projects working on, but I scrapped them, and that's the one I mostly concentrated on.
How long did this take? Because this is a big book, man. What is it, like 1 inch thick? 2 inch thick? It doesn't matter. But it's a big book.
I know it's almost 2
It's
pounds.
about a pound. Yeah, 2
It's
pounds.
almost 2 pounds, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it actually started in 2008. As it actually went that far back.
Wow.
And I've been on and off on it from here and there, life
Yeah.
and all that fun stuff. But it actually, from the people that read my first manuscript, it had a completely different title, and it had a completely different storyline to it altogether. Because originally how the project came to be was, at the time I watched, Twilight and other movies and stuff like that. And I wanted to start something of my own that was a little bit more of a darker theme and more adult-based and rather tween like Twilight and everything like that. I mean, Twilight was good in its own sense. I liked the movie, but there's certain aspects of the movie that I thought that could be either improved on or just...
Like rated R version?
Not even rated R version, just more expanded on, because they did... essentially vampires with powers.
Right.
But they didn't really expand on the powers as much as they could have.
I see. Okay.
And so that's something that I thought we had a cool concept to work with. It's what if vampires had powers beyond the whole, morphing into animals and that's actually something that I try to stay away from as far as like in my book, never in any of the books do I ever use the word vampire. Ever. And I try to stay away from that because the old lore of how the vampires are, they're technically undead, they can't be seen in the mirror, they turn into smoke, what have you, depending on which lore you want to go with. I try to stay away from that because I wanted to make my own thing, literally my own thing, not something that has already been done, time and time again. And so in my book, they're more mutants than anything, and I actually explain how the mutation is and how it works and so on and so forth. So in mine, they're not undead. They're alive as anyone else. They eat normal food. And of course, the occasional heaping of blood. But,
Yeah.
But in any case, so when it all comes to be and everything, and they find out who they are, they try to control their bloodlust and try and fit in society and, still fight against, the forces of good in the sense that the holy knights and all that fun stuff. And so that's what I tried to do in the first book, and I've had people read it. I had people give me good reviews on it. I submitted it to the online book club, and they gave me a 3 out of 4. She loved that I combined multiple genres, horror, thriller, hints of romance in it, and that's really what I wanted to do as well, because I also wanted to stay away from a one-track pony.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so another thing is I try to stay away from what I call Superman syndrome, because if you...
What is that?
to me, Superman syndrome is basically what I call it, is when the spotlight is on Superman. If you've read like any comic book or any stuff, that you always have your sub characters, and a lot of writers, and like I also read anime, and in anime that's their biggest problem that I've noticed, is that they'll have the main character who's a star, they'll have a sub character who's like a sidekick, and as the show progresses, you think the sidekick's actually doing something, and he wins a few matches, he does this and that, and then as the series progresses, he just kind of dies down and either has barely anything to do, or he's just like a cheerleader. And I try to stay away from that. Yeah. So
you prefer to have an ensemble cast fully fleshed out.
Yes,
rather than a single star.
Most definitely, because if I'm reading something, like if I don't relate to the main character, but I relate to the other one, I rather watch him grow and develop than be resorted to. You know what? He's only going to go to level 2, and that's just where you're going to be sitting at. And I try to really stay away from that. So when I write my fight scenes and I write my dialogue and everything, I have my characters evolve in their own right. To have their own spotlight, share what they can do, what they can't do, and then just mature on their own. So that way, by the time you're finished with the book, you know what? I like the bad guy. And the funny thing is...
So that's why this book is so thick. I mean, you expand on all the characters.
I expand on a lot. And I do first person. I also do God view, which is third person.
Right.
And she gave him a review saying that there's not a lot of writers that can combine the two accurately. It either doesn't make sense, or it's just like tedious information that nobody really gives a crap about. And so I try to stay away from that. And she actually liked the way I did it, because the way she put it, it makes this lengthy novel a delight to read.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. And I also like to throw in humor into it as well, because nobody wants to read a depressing book.
Right.
You have to throw a little bit of humor into it. And so and then
so I just want you, because we talked about this before we started recording, watching Twilight, and like what Twilight was missing inspired this in a way.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a fan of sparkliness. Yeah.
So when did you watch you watched the movie, right? But then
I watched all of them, actually.
You watched all of them, but did you also read the books?
I'm sorry.
Because I heard the books were really good. That's what I've heard about the books. I don't know if you read the books.
I read the first one. I read the second one. I couldn't make myself read the third one, but I read the last one because I just wanted to get it over. Yeah, I just wanted it done and over with. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like, so when I read the last one, it was still missing the whole ending of it, because like if you watch the movie, they have an alternate ending, and the alternate ending.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Well, the alternate ending was essentially inspired because there were fans that saying. So if you read the last book, the family collects all these people from different countries and what have you to save, to prove that their child is, not a threat and all that and they're all practicing combat and using powers and stuff like that. And then when it comes down to it, it kind of ends like a Scooby-Doo special where it's like, hey, we don't have to fight because, we found this other kid, somewhere else. And it's just like, well then, what the hell is the point of this? And even even in the movie, like two of the characters, like, why did we come here? Like, what is the point of this? And
the
so
little battle scene, right?
Yeah. So in the alternate ending in the movie, I forgot what her name was, but she showed them the future.
Yeah.
And in the future, there's this big combat scene, and the main antagonist, the main villain dies, and so on and so forth. And she basically showed them that so they wouldn't go into conflict, because she wanted to show if we were to go into conflict, you would die.
Yeah, the guy gets decapitated or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so, like, I understand that, but it was just kind of like a tease because it's like.
Yeah, they
didn't really happen.
And it was a good. I mean, I don't really watch the movies. I watched I think the first two because whatever dates. But then I remember seeing the battle scene for that last one, and it was disappointing that it was just like what was it, Alice?
Yeah, Alice. Yeah, Alice was the one that was showing them future.
Yeah, that kind of that to me that kind of sucked. I mean, I get it, but
it's kind of like it's like giving the audience what they want
Yeah.
without really giving them what they want. It's kind of like, here's what could have been had we had
Right.
actually done this right.
Since we're on the subject of vampires, what do you think about the Anne Rice books? I mean, did that inspire any of this?
In some ways, actually, yes. I'm actually a fan of Into Read the Vampire.
The film or the book? Because a lot of people didn't like the film because a couple of things they say weren't accurate. Like Antonio Banderas' character was supposed to be a 15-year-old Russian kid.
That's a hard thing even for Antonio Banderas to pull off.
Yeah.
He did good though.
Oh, no,
His
yeah.
character's really good.
Yeah, but him trying to be a 15-year-old Russian kid, I imagine that was, I mean, every actor has their challenges, but damn.
Yeah, give the guy some credit.
Yeah, he did all right.
I'll be honest, I haven't read the whole Anne Rice series. I read a couple of her books. I did love the movie.
Yeah.
Some of it was inspiring for mine in the sense of how the elegance and the culture and everything like that. Essentially, it's like seduction of your prey and how you want to
The underground secret society vibe they added to it. That was
in some ways, yes.
Yeah.
And so I've taken in actually to help my I'm more of a music person, like music and movie person. So what really inspired me was actually Linkin Park and Evanescence.
Oh shoot! Okay.
Oh,
Because
dark mood.
Yes, very very dark
Cast
mood.
over with their music. Yeah.
And-
That's awesome that you mentioned that
just
because I like to listen to music when I write too.
Oh,
Yeah.
me too. Me too. You're sitting there typing away, listening. Wake me up inside. No, more appropriately, bring me to life. Right? You know.
Oh yeah.
And so
I think it
Evanescence was more for the female characters, obviously.
Yeah.
And Linkin
Yeah.
Park was pretty much all around.
all around.
Yeah, and I would listen to it, and it's just like it paints a picture, and that's how I write. I visualize it. Then that's why I'm actually a fan of anime because
So let me just when you sang that, you're like every time I hear that song, I think of Daredevil and Ben Affleck.
Wake me up.
My bad. Sorry, I just couldn't get that out of my head. So you. We were talking about Ben Affleck earlier.
It's not
We were
even
talking
a
about
good
Yeah.
Daredevil. It's
I
the
know.
Ben Affleck Daredevil.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, because you mentioned that's what you use for like
Yeah.
the female characters.
see, Daredevil is a good example in the sense that it had good visual.
Yeah.
It had very good visual.
Spectacular visuals.
Plot wasn't as great as it could have been, but great visual.
Visuals are the only good
director's
thing
cut was
about
better.
that movie.
The director's cut was better.
I never saw that one.
I have the director's cut. It's,
Oh, okay,
it's a lot better. That stupid playground fight scene is still there, but if you can get past that, it's great.
It was ridiculous. Agreed.
Sorry,
No
We went on a
worries.
little
I'm glad you
tangent
brought that
there.
up because it did have good visual.
Yeah, it did have like the rose falling and everything like that.
Yeah.
It had feeling to it. Like you can actually really feel, the pain and everything like that. And that's something else I like to put in my book. You know what I mean? I don't want to do essentially one-sided characters. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a lot of movies have problems. Like, hey, it's the depressing kid, and he's just gonna be depressed. Like Twilight.
Right. Yeah.
She's
just
dead inside. She needs to be woken up.
She's so dead inside. Vampires just like, oh, she's one of us.
Yeah, she fits right in.
That's the beautiful thing that literature can do, that film has a hard time with doing, is you've got the time to dive into any character's head that you want.
Yep.
Because pages can be almost limitless. But with the film, you only have maybe 3 hours tops. Standard is less than that, but thank you, Endgame, to really develop who you're going to develop. Unless you're running a TV series or Marvel, which I've heard it joked as like the longest running television series, but just marketed as movies, where you're able to like take the time in different movies to develop each character and flesh all these different people out. If it's just a one and done film, it's hard. It's hard. Or even just a trilogy, it can be hard. So that's definitely an advantage you have as a novelist. You're able to say, no, I'm going to do more than just make this the one note depression character. I'm gonna really take you where they live, and that's powerful.
Yeah, that's also why I did God View, because in God View you're able to like look over the entire world and mold it how you want to and express feelings that for instance, if the main character is feeling something that he doesn't want to express, you have the ability to express it without him having to do anything.
Yeah.
And as the reader, you're like, oh, okay, so I get a more feeling of what this character is going through and all that fun stuff.
It allows you to read it like a script too, right? Like in the script, you see the description of what's going to happen.
Kind of, in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense.
In a sense, yes. And it was just, like, personally, I was so happy when I actually got done with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is there. And then it's like, it's one of those things. It's like if you're done watching a season of your favorite show and you're like, I'm done with it and I can't wait to start the next one.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at now.
Nice.
And even though I already wrote the second book.
It's already written.
Yeah, the second book is already done and finished and written. I just made the mistake of handwriting it, and now I have to go through the tediousness of typing it. But aside from that, it's actually done. And I have the.
Isn't it better to do it that way though? Don't you enjoy writing it by hand first and then?
Yes, but then
his face said everything there.
I could read
His voice said yes. His face said
yes. It's like it's very enjoyable in the beginning until you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Until reality hits.
You gotta find someone like Gaspar to type.
No,
this shit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we were just talking about that with Jay earlier on the way over here.
I agree with the sentiment 100% that there is a certain feel as you're writing it. When I write my rap verses, I always write them by hand. But the main reason why I do it that way, specifically with my verses, is because even though my handwriting is terrible, I'm the only one that has to look at this.
True.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
But like,
I try to make it neat for you.
yeah, neat enough for me, but no one else needs to see it. However, whenever I sit down and write a script or a novel or something, two things. I find that I can type faster than I write. So I can get my
Same
ideas.
I can't. I it looks like two chickens picking fucking food when I'm there.
And I also like being able to make instantaneous corrections. I'll go, wait, that's the wrong tense. Oh wait, that's missing a comma. So you know how they say you crank out your first draft. I basically will spend maybe a couple of hours cranking out 3 pages, but by the time I'm done with those pages, I've already made like multiple revisions to the point to where no, this is the final draft. Like sometimes. So I just pro typing, man. Yeah. 2020.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
When you write out a character, when you create a character,
Mm-hmm.
what do you? I mean, I know you said the music, but do you also like? I don't know, maybe like have. For me, it helped to have someone in mind who I think like if it became a film, who would play it.
Oh God, have I done that? Yes. I looked through. See, the only sad thing is the characters or the actors that I like now. Had this book will be a movie, hopefully,
I would for sure.
I would love that. Those actors won't really be like, they'll be too old essentially by the time this would actually make movies. And so
I was sometimes actors. I'm sure sometimes regular people that like, because that's kind of how I don't know. That's what I use sometimes.
A lot of characters are names anyway, not personalities so much, but names are based on people I know.
Okay.
And a lot of them are based on people I know. And it's for me, if I use someone's name that I actually know, it's easier for me to write dialogue for them. Not so much because I'm basing it on what they would say.
Yeah.
But just because you have that like instantaneous connection to that person, just because you know their name,
right?
And of course, I don't use their full name. I just use their first name and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely feel that. So like the first character's name is Kevin. Kevin doesn't have a relation to anyone. Kevin is essentially my own creation that I work with. Same thing with Marcus. Mm-hmm. Michelle, Christine, Oliver, Heather, and all that. Those characters are from people I've met through high school, through college, work, what have you. And so I choose to implement their names, and I even tell them, it's not a secret. Like I tell them, hey, I use your first name, and they're like, oh, that's so awesome, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, for me, it's just easier to do it like that. And like I said before, like, I visualize the fight scenes as a movie in my head.
Yeah.
And so I have trouble sometimes, like, putting a fight scene into words because you can't really like
Describe.
you can't really describe like a punch thrown and dodged or a counterattack or something like that.
Yeah.
But I do my best in the sense of how we be worded versus how it would actually be visualized. Because if I word it the right way, then the person who reads it will visualize it that way, and that's pretty much the point.
Okay.
There are some characters that are like they only live for like maybe a sentence or two. You know what I mean? And I use names for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's no different than anyone else. Of course, I don't go into the detailed description of it do for everyone else because I mean they're only alive for like a sentence.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, and so like for actors, I definitely visualize people I like that I would love to see, like Kate Beckinsale. I would love to see her in my movie.
Who would she play?
That's.
I could see her playing the queen of the Holy Knights, or the Dios Arma, which is God's weapons in Latin. And
she could pull it off still, man. She could pull off.
She can definitely
hasn't aged at all.
Yeah, she's that's what I love. That's what I love about like Underworld and everything, because throughout the movie she looks the same. There's no like age difference, and even now, she still looks great for her age. And not a lot of actors age well.
She could do another Underworld.
Especially, I mean, I hate to, at the risk of sounding even mildly sexist, especially with actresses, right? Like there's this. A lot of them get on because there's a standard of beauty.
How dare you?
And then, and then like the actual acting ability sort of comes second, to the point to where if you're 50 and still acting, you have to be as good as, say, Meryl Streep. Like Meryl Streep's freaking incredible. Yeah. You know what I mean? She'll come in and totally change your persona for a part. But that sort of thing, you just don't see that a lot. People her age working really interesting roles. It's kind of sad because I know there's some talented women out there that are not being cast, right? Got to be.
Yeah, I can't even think off the top of my head of a woman in her age that's like doing really anything right now.
Yeah,
What is she, like in her late 40s?
Meryl Streep?
No.
Kate Beckinsale? I want to say at least mid 40s, like 40s. Maybe early 50s now.
Yeah. No, but you guys were talking about Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Glenn Close. That's
Glenn Close is up there. Yeah, that's
Close.
true. Yeah, Glenn Close. And let's see.
And she has like the background just as good as Meryl Streep. Yeah, that's good acting.
And then you got who's the name of the Halloween actress?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that probably more so comes from
Journey Weaver.
But that probably comes more so for those actresses being affiliated with a popular franchise and being so their characters being so beloved in that franchise. It's like, why wouldn't we recast you? I would love to see Jamie Lee Curtis flex her acting skills in something else. Same thing with Sigourney's done other stuff. A lot of genre stuff, like what she, aside from Alien, she was in The Defenders. In a lackluster villainess role. She killed it, but the script didn't.
So you said Kate Beckinsale's one.
Yeah, I could definitely see her.
Okay, so this is gonna be an expensive film.
Well, I mean,
that's someone you use like in your head.
Yeah. I would like. I mean, that would be like.
Is that the main character?
No, that's actually the secondary villain. Who? Spoiler. She actually makes it through all 3 books, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she actually makes it through all 3 books. If you read the first one, the main bad guy is not actually the main bad guy.
Yeah.
There's the character that everyone apparently...
There's a Thanos behind it all?
No, well...
No, I'm just kidding.
It's... Okay, let me put it to you this way. You've seen Venom.
No, I haven't.
I have.
You've seen Venom.
Sadly.
Okay, so you like Venom.
Yes. You mean the movie or the character? I love the character.
Okay, the character. We'll see. The movie was
he
great.
had to specify.
The movie was okay.
The movie was
the Spider-Man 3 one.
No, fuck God. No, for the love of God, man. No.
Love the character.
No, don't that Venom needed some meat on him.
Just for clarification, I will say
Eric Foreman.
Yes.
That the actor that plays Eddie Brock in the Venom movie it did his job, and if I was going to Tom Hardy, if I was going to cast somebody to be Eddie Brock, it would definitely be him. I would just prefer him to be Eddie Brock in a more accurate depiction of the character. Like I could totally see Tom Hardy bench pressing, being angry because, you know, Spider-Man caught the real serial killer and then plotting to like murder him out of revenge because the symbiote's just like, yeah, we're both angry at Peter / Spider-Man. I could totally see him doing that. That's not what we got. But go on.
Yeah. But
Damn it. Fucking Sony. Trying to put the big boy pants on. Fuck you, Sony. Sorry.
but
Sorry about my friend.
I think he's got some venom in him.
He's got a little too much coffee in him.
But like as I was saying, so you like the character Venom, right?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, Marcus is my version of Venom, and so Marcus is actually, if he actually makes it to the third book, and he's actually the main bad guy throughout this whole thing, and everyone who's read my book. Oddly enough, nobody really so much likes Kevin, who's like the main character. They like Marcus, which is like the sub bad guy, at least in the first one.
Okay.
And they like him because he's pretty much straightforward. He's essentially he tries to take over Kevin's body as soon as he gets a chance, and he's very manipulative. And what I love about him, and what I try to stay with him is. This is your goal. Your goal is to take over the body, and you have all the means in the world to do it, and you do whatever you have to do to do it. And he stands by that. And so, even when he's trying to help, or when he's trying to, like, at least be supportive in any sense, it's always still toward the main goal. And so, I'll give you a small spoiler. In the second book, when he actually betrays Kevin's like in this like whole amazement, like how could you, like we've made it so far, like we've done this, and he tells him like my main goal was always to take over your body and to get my own, to live my life. This was never like a real partnership.
I was never your friend.
Like like I don't understand where you're going to like getting this attachment from.
Right.
Ironically,
Yeah.
but and so in the second book, he actually, when he betrays him, it's so like exhilarating to read it because you've read the first one, he's tried, he's failed, he's done this, he's done that, and when you make it to the second one and he betrays him in that good laugh, I'm not going to spoil anything, but when he actually does it, you're like, yes, like the character that I've been like loving for this whole series has finally gotten what he wanted and finally going with it. And when he makes it in the third book, it's I would love it if when they make the third movie for this. Yeah. You've heard "Feeling Good" by what's his name? The one that and I'm feeling good.
Oh, Michael Bublé?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would, and his lyrics fit in it so great because in the third movie I visualize it. Marcus just going through like a field, like a meadow.
Yeah.
You know, setting
That's
stuff.
awesome that you have a song in mind for
Oh, yeah.
for a
Oh, no, I have a song for all of them.
Yeah,
I have a book playlist.
Okay.
And so he's going through like this meadow and the song's playing and he's finally got what he wanted. He's just setting stuff on fire. And it's like, yes. And that would be like the beginning of the movie. Like him just enjoying freedom.
Yeah.
You know, something that he's always wanted. And I'll give you the origin of Marcus. Marcus was actually for a lack of a better term, a living enchantment. He was a soul sliver that got put in an amulet and was put on Michael, who's the main bad guy. He was put on his daughter and her sister and everything. And the whole thing was that it was supposed to make the subject more... It wasn't supposed to take over, but it was supposed to essentially control them enough to where they'd want to follow Michael regardless. Okay. Like they still had their own will, but to make them more agreeable to what he wanted.
When you say soul sliver, you mean a piece of a soul?
Yes, so casting the
I thought you
spell.
meant like possession.
Not entirely.
Okay.
But see, the reason he was put in a gem, and all the other soul slivers was because. That was the whole containment. So there was no possession. It was just like a chip, like, you know, for lack of a better term, like a chip. Okay. And so when the amulet got crushed, the Soul Sliver, or Kevin crushed it, the Soul Sliver had nowhere else to go but inside his body. And so at that point, Marcus already found himself to be more or less free. And now let's weed out the other person, just live my life and everything like that. Okay. And so that's what makes it more interesting and relatable to Marcus, because Marcus is not just trying to, get a body for shits and giggles. He's actually trying to live. You know what I mean? He feels that he has the right to live because he's alive. You know what I mean? And it's the same for anything. If you're alive, why can't you do what you want to do? Why should you be caged and imprisoned? And so he does everything he can to get what he wants and to get his body and live his life. And so even in the book, he goes against Michael, and Kevin questions him, like, why would you go against, like, in a sense, yourself? He's like, why wouldn't I? This is what he would do if he were in my position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why wouldn't I do the same thing?
Yeah.
And you kind of understand that. And that's why, like, a lot of people relate to Marcus, because he's trying to do what he's trying to live. He's trying to enjoy his life. Yeah. That's like anyone else.
No matter who he takes out.
no matter. Yeah, he's pretty selfish in a lot of ways. He'll only help if it's only an advantage to him. And so
did that aspect of, like, did that get in at all inspired by something that happened in real life? I don't know. It just kind of. It's like a vengeance story on your part, or something you saw. Like, is that inspired by a true?
Venom was actually the inspiration for
Venom.
him.
Okay.
It's not a.
Because a lot of times there's a lot of stuff that's inspired by real stuff that happens. Yeah. I'm sure, and I don't know.
As far as real life goes, I try to think, like, is it something I would do if I was in that situation? And basically, like, I'm Kevin and Marcus are more based on something I would do versus like Alexis or Heather, because first of all, it's a female role, and obviously they would have their own views and everything like that. Same thing for Jimmy and all the other people. So for me to write them, I have to think what they would do, not what I would do.
Right.
And so when I was writing Marcus' character and Kevin's character, I thought of myself, like, what would I do in this situation? Like, what would I say? How evil would I be if I did Marcus? And that's what I find funny, is because when people read the book, they're like, we like Marcus better.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin's great. He's great. We love Kevin, but we love Marcus. And it's kind of like same thing. Like if you watch, it's like if you watch Venom.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? You like Venom for Venom.
Right.
Right.
I mean, Eddie's great.
Yeah.
We love Eddie, but we have Venom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Indeed. Nice.
And in Venom or in Marcus in this case, it's not a parasitic relationship like it is with Venom.
Right.
It's more of like he doesn't need. Well, he needs Kevin to be alive, obviously, for him too, but he doesn't feed off of him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just basically like as long as you're alive, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And as time progresses,
I'm saving my dinner for later. Like, it's just
basically, yeah. And so, like, as time progresses, his powers do get stronger. And Marcus actually has his own power.
Okay.
And it's funny because later on in the book, you find out that his power is actually assimilation, of all things.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic because it's like he's able to essentially assimilate like matter, like weapons or anything like that. He's able to assimilate and make it part of his armor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so as he evolves, as he grows, he doesn't really need Kevin as much as he needs in the beginning, because in the beginning he's just like he's like a newborn, you know what I mean?
So they're like discovering their powers as the book goes. Is that kind
of? Well, no. He more or less, yeah. Marcus knows what his power is from the get-go.
Okay.
Like once he essentially swallows Kevin.
He's like the Lestat of the.
Not.
Oh, okay.
No, not like in the stat.
Okay.
But like I described the first assimilation of him and Kevin the same way, kind of like how Venom did Brock.
Oh yeah.
Just full on enclosure, just swallowing him and then just moving or whatever.
Yeah.
And so of course the only difference is that in my book, like when you see Venom, you see sharp teeth, you see fangs, stuff like that. In mine, it's still Kevin. You know what I mean? It's just like a different facial expression, different attitude, and stuff
Dr.
like
Jekyll,
that.
Mr. Hyde kind of a thing.
Kind of, yes. And so, like, that's actually another inspiration behind that too, as well.
Yeah.
But and so when the other characters interact with them, he literally tells them like, "This is like, I'm not Kevin. Like, this is
Just to remind you.
yeah, like you wish this was him type thing." Yeah, like we don't understand. And he pretty much just goes on a bloodlust and just starts
Tearing shit up.
yeah. In one of the scenes, he actually attacks one of the guy's girlfriends, and he's about to like snap her neck and everything like that. And he tells her like, or no, he tells her, say your last goodbyes. Say something that like meaningful and stuff like that. And he tells her, he's like, I love you and everything will be okay, and I'll save you and everything. And he's like, why are you lying to her? He just like snaps her neck.
Oh shit.
And he's like, no. and it was, I love writing his character. And there's a character, because I said there's multiple soul slivers.
You have fun writing deaths?
Death scenes, yes, because
Sorry.
death scenes are impactful.
Yeah.
Whether you love the character, whether you hate the character, it leaves a mark.
Yeah, it makes the reader feel something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's too many deaths and too many scenes or too many chapters, you're just like,
You grow numb to it.
yes, it's like, well, who else is gonna die?
Right,
Just step on up. What, your name's John? Get over here, John.
One thing can be said about the Game of Thrones phenomenon, A Song of Fire and Ice, is nobody, spoiler alert, the damn shows and books have been out for like how long now? So, but anyway, that first death that happens, like
The very first one,
the
or
very first death in book one that happens, everyone was like, no way, no, you don't. So after that, the rest of the books, everyone's wondering who else is going to die now. But it's a different kind of like, it's not a bored like, oh, here we go again. It's more like anything can happen.
Yeah.
And because they do multiple POVs, there are multiple characters that have their own chapters written from their perspective. It's okay that this particular character dies just because you can pick up in someone else's story and the other stories and then include more because there's this big world, this big tapestry that's going on. It's just the viewpoints. But it was the tough thing, I think, was that it was a character that a lot of people loved. So when you kill off a character, and you mentioned that it should be impactful, like how many, ballpark without giving too much away, how many characters do you kill in your story, and what kind of weight do these characters have? Are they minor characters, or are you totally fine with taking someone that's an established main, like heart and soul, like Captain America, Tony Stark level character, and going, you know what, dead?
In the first book, there is actually this one, Kevin's mom dies. Spoiler alert. In the first one, so she dies. She's impactful. Depends on how you want to look at it, as a family member and a mother versus just a character in the book. Now she gets killed off, and her death is actually what pushes Kevin over the edge and really actually sets him up for the fight and actually gets him to take revenge. The other characters. There are characters, let's see. Yeah. There's one of Tony Stark characters that actually does die, and he makes a very noble sacrifice because he sacrifices himself to bring back his daughter who got killed. And what he casts is essentially a spell that triggers as soon as he dies. So as soon as he actually dies, the spell triggers, and it essentially gets his essence and brings his daughter back. And the reviewer that read the book, she said that was like he literally gave of his body and soul to bring back his daughter. And his daughter, like when she comes back, she's searching for her dad, and her dad's obviously like there's no trace of him anymore.
Yeah.
And so she's heartbroken, but she's like so happy and everything, and just so thankful for his sacrifice. And that's actually her whole family. Have her uncle, her father, and her cousin actually, all three of them sacrificed themselves for the greater good. And her cousin actually was the one that rebelled against that because she felt that, why should I have to sacrifice myself for something? Why can't I just, do what I want? And in the end, she still ends up having to sacrifice herself regardless. And so I like killing off characters that do have meaning because, again, it's either you love them, you hate them, but it just happens, and stuff like that. There are characters that I personally liked that I had to kill off because there was just there was no more future for them. They were great. Mm-hmm. They were great, but they just had to be written off, basically. And yeah.
Let me ask you about the setting of your novel. Is it mostly like back alleyways and dark city streets, or
and also is it
what's the
modern
atmosphere?
day?
Oh
it's definitely modern day. It's not futuristic, no flying cars, none of that fun stuff.
Or ancient times, yeah. That's
right. No, it's modern day. It's mostly dark alleys in some senses because the one thing I kept from the old vampire lore is the sunlight sensitivity.
Yeah.
I kept that, and there is actually an allergy, a rare allergy that people do have that causes boils and blisters if they're exposed to sunlight. And
the kids had that, right?
Yeah. And so I implemented that as part of the mutation and everything like that.
Nice.
So instead of just going off, hey, we're sensitive to light because, why not?
Yeah,
no, I actually, that's why I did. They're not undead. They can eat. They have a mutation. I used meiostasis. I actually looked up the definition of it, and it's a virus that essentially manipulates cells and essentially multiplies. And it's transmitted the same way, blood contact,
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, so it's that's why they bite each other, so on and so forth. They still follow the same thing where they can't feed on each other. They actually need fresh blood.
Yeah.
And the blood is not so much a survival thing. It's more just a booster.
Right.
Just to accelerate healing or just give them boosts of strength.
Powers, get stronger.
Yeah, basically. But
that's an interesting concept because I don't know if I've ever heard that in a vampire. That they eat regular food.
No, actually, no. I'm scratching my head because I'm thinking maybe
I remember
maybe half breeds or half breeds
Night.
or something. Maybe, but no.
Yeah.
Oh no. They eat like cheesecake and all that, burgers and all that fun stuff.
I guess it would stand to reason that if vampires, even the more supernaturally written ones, still have a stomach, that they could fake it, right? In theory, they could sit down and eat cheesecake and swallow it. It won't give them any nourishment. So, I never saw any reason why when Dracula had Jonathan Harker over that he couldn't just eat a piece of fucking chocolate cake and swallow that shit. You still have working guts, right? It may not do anything for you, but at least pretend for your guest's sake.
Yeah.
But would you eat blood to fit in with your vampire buddies?
If for no other reason than to trick them into thinking that I wasn't, human, so they wouldn't bite me. Oh, he's one of us because they don't drink their own.
Yeah.
No, but that is an interesting concept. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you because I'm curious because this is based on vampire. What's your favorite vampire movie?
Underworld.
Because of the battle, or is it
because not so much the battle, because of the dark theme to it.
Yeah.
It's
a very dark film. It's all.
I wasn't so much of a fan of how they did the werewolves.
Okay, yeah.
The lichens and everything I felt they could have done a little bit better than that. They did better than they weren't lichens in Twilight. They were shapeshifters.
Yeah.
But regardless, they could have.
I didn't like the way they did it in Twilight either, though.
Yeah, they're just big ass dogs.
Now, what is your exact criticism when you say the way they did them? You mean the way they wrote them, or the way that they presented them?
The costumes,
special effects,
the costumes. They especially in the first one, and they improved it as the movies progressed. In the first one, the heads don't really move, the mouths don't really move. They just kind of like a mask, if you put on a wolf mask and you just Could
You
like
know-
put on someone's shoulder.
It reminded
That's
me of do you remember Ninja Turtles, the second one, when they have that the wolf and the turtle. And
Oh, you mean the Bebop and Rocksteady ripoffs we got
Right,
instead of
yeah.
actual Bebop
Yep,
and Rocksteady?
yep. That's what it reminded me of. That big ass wolf.
Make no damn sense.
What about werewolves? Is there werewolves in this?
There are no.
Okay, that's all
Okay, werewolves actually. I will spoil this. Werewolves will be introduced
Nice.
in a future series.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not going to call them werewolves because
right.
I'm not going by that whole thing.
Not
Nor
like-
lichens,
not lichens either?
nor
Okay.
nor
I was
hexen
just gonna
wolves.
ask.
No,
Okay.
none of that stuff.
Skinwalkers. No.
No, no, God, no.
The Moon People.
The moon people. Yes. The lunar rising.
Ooh, that's fresh.
Is that?
Okay, you know what? I actually like that. I might stick with that.
Yes.
Oh shit!
Dope, man.
That is pretty.
Okay. Yeah. In the book, in the first one, we do have angels. We have angels. We have a small touch on demons. We have I call my vampire. Sorry, they're not vampires. I call them demi-bloods.
You have to drink every time you say vampires.
Yeah. I call them demi-bloods. Demi for demon and blood.
Right.
So that's the mixture I use. And because I know demi means small.
Yeah.
Like so blood is kind of like they're lesser than demons, but they're above humans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said, I wouldn't call them vampires. And I use Dios Arma because I wanted to use something. I know I used Holy Knights before.
Yeah. Is that like the Knights Templar kind of?
Well, that's okay. So that's another thing. I wanted to get away from, like, you've seen Priest, right? The movie.
Part of it. Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to stay away from typical, or at least maybe English names.
Right.
And I was like, I looked into Latin because I wanted to make them old. I wanted to make them experienced and everything like that because I made them essentially followers from angels. You know what I mean? And so I looked in Latin and I looked out, you know what? Dios, God, Arma, weapons. They essentially work for God. God's weapons, Dios Arma.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? And it fits. It's catchy and it works.
Sounds ancient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I ran with that. And so you have your angels, your Dios Arma, your demi-bloods, your humans, and later on in book 2, there will be archangels.
Oh.
Yes. Another thing, like I'm a big fan of Supernatural. And Supernatural actually helped me come up with dialogue or just environment setting of, you know what, if an angel came to you, what would the conversation be like?
Look, you winged son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You're going to help my brother out of hell and so we'll clip your wings.
No, well,
That's something that Dean would say.
I actually have one fallen angel in the book, and the fallen angel is created because, so I have a process in the book called ascension, is when an angel chooses a suitable human or very rarely another angel that they choose to pass on their powers on to. The fallen angel is created almost through the same process, but through profane means. And so when she became a fallen angel, her wings became like ashy gray. And instead of healing, she had, powers to remove curses or poison. It's more of a darker view of it.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because like when she gets into it with another female character and they're like arguing and everything, she calls her a crow. So it's just like
Black wings.
yeah, and she spreads her wings and it's like ah, it's like bring it on, you crow. And so like I like to make fun of that. Like I like to put a little bit of humor into everything because I mean obviously there's seriousness to it.
Right.
And one of the characters, or actually no, one of the reviewers, she said that the book had, in her opinion, maybe too many fight scenes. And I can elaborate on that because in the first book, it's a lot of them go through training because they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what their powers are. And so training has to be implemented for the character, one, to evolve, for you to get a touch on what the character can do, and so on and so forth. And so they get trained from three different people in different times. And by the end of it, they're experienced, they know what they can do, and they just make a fantastic battle in the end. And, and they do have undead because, god damn it, I had to put zombies in there.
Oh, nice.
Yes. But it's not like Resident Evil zombies.
Yeah.
They're just like shambling.
That's one thing I've always wanted to see in like a vampire movie.
Zombies versus vampires,
or just they're in the same realm, kind of.
Yeah.
Like it would be interesting.
In the new Dracula series on Netflix, there's a scene where
there's a new one, huh?
Yeah. There's a scene where Dracula explains to a character that there's like tiers to this whole undead thing. Like and I think that's something Bram Stoker brings up in the original novel. Like not all undead are vampires, and you know what I mean. There's like a sort of lower teetering, shambling, things still clinging to life, but they don't feed on blood. More like physical ghosts than anything else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of got. I've seen Land of the Dead. I've seen like Resident Evil, all the Dead movies, and there are different depictions of how their zombies evolved, whether it be naturally or genetically or altered, what have you. And so my zombies, they're not the main thing of the book,
right.
And so they don't evolve.
They're the fries to the burger.
Yeah, they're pretty much the side piece. That's like, what's it called? Like they're.
So is it in the world kind of a thing?
They're what do we call like just pushing things to the front so they can die and everything like that. Just
they're cannon fodder.
Yeah, cannon fire. That's what it was. Yeah.
The reason, because when you say zombies, it made me think like this is in an apocalypse kind of setting. It's not.
No.
Because vampires don't have to be end of the world, like, and then zombies like, oh yeah, this shit's over. That's what.
No, the main bad guy he likes to have an army with him, and that's pretty much what he uses.
Yeah.
That's all there really is to it. But the spell he uses is actually kind of funny because it lets him raise the dead, but it's like really fickle.
Yeah.
So the zombies are in control of whoever's strongest in the area.
Yeah.
Okay. And so even if he were to like raise them and everything like that, if there's someone stronger than he is, they're gonna listen to him.
Right.
And it's funny because I make that joke in the book where he says like, well, they already been dead once. I mean, they don't want to die again, so they're gonna go for the stronger leader.
Yeah, that's funny.
I mean, it's like you can't blame them, and I made that spell work like that just because it's funny. And when they turn on him, and he's like, no, I'm the one who raised you and everything, and they're just like, no, yeah, they don't care.
Hey, every good villain needs a set of putties. I mean, Shredder had the Foot Clan.
Yeah.
Lord
Zed has his putties.
Lord Zed has his putties.
Yep.
Wait, Hydra has an innumerable amount of agents in green and yellow. We get it.
Is this available on?
It's available on Amazon. Yeah.
And that's the only place we can get it. If
for the time being, yes.
Okay. When is book 2 coming out?
Book 2. I can't put a date on exactly, because like I said, life. It's already written out. I'm just going through the process and trying to hurry up and get it over with and then done with and publish it. I do have the book covers ready for book 2 and book 3.
I was going to ask you about the cover here. Is that a torch? What is that?
It's a fireball.
A fireball. Oh,
yep.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and I loved it because in the covers, all 3 of them, the main character, he wears a hoodie on the cover. It's not so much because I like hoodies, but because it's like a dark, brooding look and everything like that. And he's, of course, he doesn't have a costume. This is not like Marvel Cinematic or anything like that. You know what I mean? He's basically like a regular person. He doesn't wear masks. And I actually poke fun at masks because at the very beginning, when his mom dies, he gets accused of being at the scene, and so they pretty much put a bounty on him because he pretty much escapes, and they put a bounty on him trying to like a reward. And so his girlfriend at the time, she's like, maybe we should wear a mask. And so she goes to the mask to the closet, and she pulls out 2 masks. She pulls out a mask that looked like a Zorro mask, and then she pulls out like a ski mask. And so like I make fun of it. I'm just like, so I either look like a vigilante or a bank robber. And so she's like, well, I have makeup. I mean, we can like put, do a little eye thing. Yeah. He's like, no. He's like, I'm not gonna look like a guy like trying to break into Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, would you rather look like the guy trying to escape from jail, like wearing an orange jumper?
Yeah.
And so like I poke fun a little bit at that, and there's other like cultural Easter eggs hidden there.
That's what I hate about Superman, the Clark Kent disguise.
Oh, the whole glasses.
Yeah, like come on.
Do you not recognize him? Honestly,
here's what's funny about
and they didn't
that.
change that in the movie.
The point is he doesn't wear a mask as Superman, so you don't expect him to have a secret identity. You're not looking for it. Batman, there's clearly somebody under there. Superman, that's just who he is.
I think he changes his cowlick, doesn't he?
No, he changes his hair and his
another thing
posture.
about the mask that I hate with Batman. Sorry, man. He's got makeup in the mask, and then he takes it off, and there's no makeup on the eyelids.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's all good. No, actually, there was a former CIA chief of. I can't remember what her title was, but I was watching her interview and she was going over various spy films where the character has to make some sort of quick change or disguise and talking about the accuracy. And she said in the interview that oftentimes what real life spies will do is they will change something relatively small about their appearance, whether it's switching a wig, putting on a pair of glasses, because according to research, apparently our facial recognition software is crap. So like the whole Superman thing, puts on the glasses, changes the cowlick, slouches a bit. That actually works. Those are things that real undercover agents will do to differentiate themselves if they feel like they're being watched or tailed. So real life works.
Well,
I still hate it.
Yeah. My character, he abandons that. And it's
and it's just his own look.
No, okay, so I also make fun of old horror films, like not so much Dracula. I make fun of Frankenstein a little bit. So when one of the characters dies, he gets revived through basically electricity, and they put like little metal studs on his neck and everything like that. Yeah, like the bolts and everything. And they revive him and stuff like that. And he's kind of dressed kind of like not like just poor, like a hobo.
Yeah.
Kind of almost hobo looking like.
Yeah.
And so when he meets Kevin, he makes fun of him. He's like, I didn't know it was Halloween because he's wearing the mask and everything. He's like, you want to talk with your neck bolts and everything. And so it's funny. And I put the mask on him just because like I wanted that small short period of him, being superhero-like in a sense. Yeah. And in the book, I make it pretty much clear that he is not a superhero by any means. He's not one of those like, oh, I'm going to save a damsel in distress. He's pretty much like an anti-hero.
Yeah, on his own quest.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the world, basically, right?
And I was like so happy because obviously I started this whole project before the Deadpool series came out. Mm-hmm. But when I watched Deadpool, the first one and the second one, I was happy because, like, back before Deadpool came out, like, I loved the jokes and everything. And that's how Marcus and Kevin are in the same sense, too. They're a lot kind of like Deadpool. Yeah. And if they need to kill someone, Marcus especially, he'll do it. He won't think about it. Kevin, he'll make a judgment call on whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. And then, and so, like, I also did a Marcus version called Cindy in the book because I also wanted to give a female version as well. And she's a little bit more reserved in how she does it. She has the same main goal as Marcus, but she's more willing to cooperate on a more even level and to like be supportive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why I try to like I have multiple relationships going throughout book 1, book 2. In book 2, there is more or less a same-sex relationship, but one of the parties is also a shapeshifter.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like, you get the best of both worlds type thing. You know what I mean? And so, And so like that part was fun to play. And
Dreaming out loud.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, it's like
Hey,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
have fun with it because I don't want to be like completely biased and it's like, well, how come there's only straight relationships or how come there's always da. So I try to make it as versatile as it possibly can, so everyone can get a taste of everything.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I do with my characters. That's what I do with my storyline. Because if I'm the one reading it, I want to find something that I like and I want to go with that. And I've read like a few Stephen King books, and like I like Stephen King. He's great.
Love him.
And but like I've heard his descriptions where he'll take like 5 pages to describe a cup.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. In how you want to describe it, that's all on you. I tried to do it as brief but descriptive as possible and make the book flow, right? Because I don't want to be stuck on one character for too damn long.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he has a toe ring. Okay, whatever. It's like, no, it's like we're moving on. And the only characters, like I said, I don't describe are the ones that live for like half a page or like a sentence because it's just, there's no point in getting attached to that. But to the main characters, you easily know if they're going to be staying there for a good minute. If I actually take the time to describe their personality, or like Alexis and Heather are 2 rich girls that start in the very beginning, and I give them full descriptions, slight touch on personality, and then I leave them alone. And the way I do it like a wheel. So we have character A, B, C, D, whatever, and I go from one to the next and one to the next, and I just rotate them in and out. So you're not stuck on one character for too long, and you have a taste of everything. It's like Baskin Robbins, like 31 flavors. Try them all out, see who you get attached to.
This one you said it mostly focuses on Kevin and Marcus?
As the main characters? Yes.
Does it change for the second book?
No. It's still, Kevin is still the main character regardless.
Okay.
Third person takes care of everything else, essentially. And they have, obviously, like if Kevin's doing something else, there's going to be like a different section where it's like, hey, what are these characters doing? Or are they, for the like a section for the bad guys? What are they plotting? You know, and stuff like that. And I put thoughts into and emotions into the bad guys as well, like what they're thinking while they're fighting Kevin. You know what I mean? It's are they amazed? Are they afraid? Or like what are they gonna do and everything? And that's what I love about doing God view. Like first person is great.
Yeah.
But God view lets you really expand on the whole world. It's like you have the
story. Huh?
Yeah, it's like you have the whole world in your hands. You can poke and prod it however you want to. First person, you're just limited to basically what the first person views. Like there is no like, hey, you know, my girlfriend's thinking about this, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
So you just have to go on either facial expression or you just have to use intuition.
Right.
And so
it makes it easier if they adapt it into film because you have that.
Yeah. makes that a lot easier. But when it's in the book, you have to basically do it yourself.
Right.
And so I was really happy when the reviewer read it, and she was happy that you were able to expand between first and third, and make it really cohesive and make it flow and make it work, instead of just like tedious information that doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's not an easy feat to pull off. I commend you for that.
Oh, thank you. And
because a lot of people sometimes when they read it, they without God's view or
I call it third person,
hard.
but I call it God view.
I'm sure they have a lot of how hard, especially if they're not really imaginative when they read.
Yeah,
they're just reading next, and I don't know it because have you heard a lot of reviews about it? Like, how do you feel about some of the reviews you've heard? Because I'm sure you pay attention to that a little bit, right? Like
I said, like a lot of the reviews were pretty much, I love Marcus. They liked how it flowed and everything, that you don't stay on something for too long. You give it just enough time, whether it be, there are fight scenes that take about 10 pages.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I have like 12 people fighting at one time. And that was like the hardest thing to write, is like when you have multiple people, especially like when he brings up the dead and everything and he's fighting like all the people at once. I have to rotate from one fight scene between one character to the next and keep them in order and make sure that it's in the same time frame.
Okay.
Because if something's thrown off, then it throws out the whole fight.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was like the hardest part, just doing fight scenes.
I've never written a fight scene, so I don't know how that.
It's challenging.
Yeah. So I look forward to reading this, man. You say you don't have a date for when
For the second one, no, not yet.
because I want to maybe both of us read it, all of us, and then once you have a date for the second one, I'd like to have you back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
we
yeah,
can expand on
I would
this,
love to be
and-
back.
Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure, man. But hey, I want to thank you for coming by. I know you. Can I read this?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. but yeah, you have any?
Will you sign it?
Will you
Oh yeah,
sign it?
most definitely. Yeah, I'll sign it.
That's a trend now. We're getting all the authors that come on the voice party to sign the page, give us a copy. Like
I'll definitely sign it for you guys.
us
And the second chapter or the second book is called Alliances.
Alliances.
So the first one is Dissension. The second one is Alliances.
Oh, okay.
And the third one will be called Judgment.
Okay.
Unless I choose to change it, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much where it goes for.
You have any like last remarks you want the readers to know about, just something before they crack into the book?
The book is definitely a for a mature audience. It's
Okay.
definitely for a mature.
We
it's
didn't talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a tween book by any means. It's rated R, but it's tasteful.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't have
It's
like
not cheap sex scenes.
no, it doesn't have no. The sex scenes especially are not full on descriptive. This is not like porn by any means.
Right.
So it's tasteful. It describes you enough to get the visual, and then we're moving on. We're not doing 20 minutes groaning and moaning for whatever.
It's funny. I heard an interview with Orson Welles where he said you could never make a masterpiece porn film. You could only make a masterpiece like film about porn, but you could never actually do
interesting.
yeah.
Huh.
You can make it about porn, but not a porn film that's gonna be because it's too much stimulation and it wouldn't work.
Oh, right, because you.
Right.
Okay, oh, that makes sense. You wouldn't be able to
Pants
fully
are in the
appreciate.
way.
Exactly. You gotta talk about
You
it.
hate those.
Oh man, so that's one thing we definitely not. Don't buy this for your kids.
Yeah, it's definitely not a kid's
I'm sure
book.
teens would love it though.
Yeah.
But like especially as kids we like reading all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's rated R because of gory scenes
Yeah.
and language and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's not like NC-17 or anything like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
for sure.
yeah, it's not one of those. And
You have
Yeah.
a social media.
oh yeah, it has its own Facebook and everything.
Oh, it does?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has its own Facebook page.
So what is that?
Yeah.
Blood and Blackwater.
Blood and Blackwater, yes.
Oh yeah, okay. And that's where if somebody wanted to contact you after reading it, where could they do that?
Boris Edwards. It's also my Facebook page.
Oh, yeah,
so yeah,
okay,
so they can
okay.
always look me up, leave
Right on,
me
man.
a comment, or add me whichever you
Oh,
want.
yeah. So we'll set a date. I mean, I don't want to. Let's set a date on the podcast.
No, never that. Never
No,
that.
no, no.
There's a certain other individual we know who will do that. Who will do that sometimes, but not us. We're
for
Yeah.
sure.
careful.
But yeah, man, thank you for coming, and I look forward to reading this, and I hope like this gets you a lot of readers.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely do. If I could make this my dream job and like make a living off of this, I'd be so freaking happy.
Hey, dude,
Anything's possible, man.
Anything's possible,
Yeah.
man. That's a lot.
Yeah,
of
it's 28 chapters. It's pretty fat, but like I said, it flows and everything.
yeah.
and-
How many words? What's the word count on this?
Oh God, I lost count. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's on the if you go to the Amazon page and everything, it gives you like a word count and
Yeah.
all that fun stuff. But yeah, and I love reading, mature sci-fi books.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you earlier about like Anne Rice and the Dresden Files. I like Mortal Instruments. Mortal Instruments
Oh,
it's
yeah.
more of a tween book and everything. I still liked it. I mean, it was well written.
Now, specifically, because I know it sounds like we're getting wrapped up, but I have one question before we go.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 horror novels for you.
Oh yeah. I meant to ask that for vampire too, vampire novels, but
Top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. I don't know. I would just say Dresden Files, the Anne Rice one, and that's about it, really.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is top
I don't have a real like favorite in regards to that.
two. Okay.
favorite Anne Rice.
Interview with the Vampire.
Interview with the
The other one's
the film or the novel.
I like the film better.
The film
I'm more of I like reading and everything, but
Visuals.
I like.
That's why I'm
I do
interested in
movies
reading
more.
this because I'm a visual guy too.
Yeah.
and I mean, don't get me wrong. I like reading. Like I remember I read that Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter before before I watched
the
the
movie?
film. Yeah, and I actually like the book a lot better.
That's usually always the case when it's like from a book, like
For
whether it be
sure.
Harry Potter or
The books just take you further.
Yeah. Man, so thank you for coming by, and we'll definitely
I
see you
had
again.
a great time here. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. I
you're
really
welcome,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
coming.
All right.
take us
I'm
out.
glad-
Take us out, everybody. We out of here. Thank you.